So hoops for this year has been out for a little bit, but it seems that on Twitter, a couple of people have pointed out that Ken Golden, who's this hobby celebrity that I talked about in the intro, he is actually in the background of the Joel Embiid card. And I guess he's offering something I saw, I think it was a collectibles guru, I think, was saying that he's offering $1,000 or $10,000. I forget the exact number. He's offering money for the one of this card, which is pretty cool. And, you know, one of the big things that has happened over these past couple years has been, like, the celebrities that are in some of these cards. Like, there was the one card, which actually was a Ja rookie, that came out of Chronicles, I believe. It had Young Dolph in it, who was like a rapper. And then I think people have also pointed out that the family from The Blind Side was also in that card. Now, you also probably remember the Mark Jackson card that had the Menendez brothers, who were like murderers back in the 90s. I guess, murdered their family. So it gets me thinking, like, I wonder why there aren't more... Like, with other sports, I understand, but with basketball, I just feel like there has to be more celebrities. Oh, and then there was also, like, I think it was a Kyle Lowry card that had Drake on it, I think. But this is the point that I'm trying to make. I don't understand how there aren't more cards like this. And I think it probably has to do with some sort of IP law. Like, Panini or, you know, whoever's making these basketball cards, they probably... to use an image from a photographer, and if the photographer knows, like, this is probably the reason, if I had to guess. Like, I'm sort of brainstorming a little bit here about why this might be. I'm thinking this is probably the reason. The photographer, because they have to buy the photos, they have to license these photos for the cards. They probably have some photographers, but they don't have, they do probably, with how many cards they're coming out with, they probably have to license some photos. So they probably have to either license the IP that they're using, like the person's intellectual property. That's what IP is. They have to, like, pay the celebrity, maybe potentially, to be on the card, or, like, they have to pay the photographer who knows that, you know, Drake, or that who knows that they have a photo of a basketball player with celebrities in the background. And, you know, with a lot of rookie cards like Prism and stuff, I think that they do Photoshop, and a lot of those images are also taken from, they're taken from, like, the rookie premiere, which is, like, they have all the rookies come and they get the photo shoot or whatever. So I'm wondering if, like, this would be an interesting product, I think, for Panini or for Fanatics whenever they take over the basketball licenses, like a specific set of cards. And I feel like Michael Rubin would be able to do this because he knows some of these celebrities. So, like, it almost feels like they could probably easily set up this set. And they could do, like, a dual card. Like, you know, Ken Golden is a celebrity in our world, maybe not necessarily in the pop culture or whatever. But Michael Rubin knows enough people that he could, you know, I don't know how, like I said, with sports cards nowadays, it's a money thing. So it's like, is there really, like, I like coming up with ideas that I think are cool, but, like, at the same time, like, there is going to be there's a money issue with most of the ideas that I come up with that are cool, because, like, in this scenario, if they're paying the celebrities, they have to somehow make their money back on these cards. I mean, unless they're sort of doing it as, like, a passion project and they're just trying to, I mean, it could be that they do it in, like, the same way that they did, like, the Alabama football set, and they've done, like, a bunch of other random sets. They try and create, like, a pop culture set with players and celebrities. Like, and, you know, I guess this is, like, where you would, I don't know if the players would need to cooperate with this, or, like, how they would do it, or if it's, like, they need to run by the celebrity to make sure they get the photo, because I'm sure there's probably a lot of different logistics that would go into some sort of set like this, where, you know, if whatever Drake is sitting in the front row, you could get, like, a Drake and then a player like, you know, RJ Barrett just got traded actually back to Canada. He got traded, well, he's from Canada, not traded back to Canada, but he's from Canada. Now he got traded from the Knicks to the Raptors. So, like, maybe you could do, like, an RJ Barrett Drake card or something where he's sitting in the front row, and either you have RJ Barrett running by, or, I mean, I think also it would, because after the game, a lot of the celebrities that sit in the front row, they know some of the players too. So like they'll say hi to the players occasionally. Like they'll go up to them after the game and say what's up. So that's another opportunity maybe to get some sort of image for the card. And like I said, to pay for the seats for the athlete, or not the athlete, the celebrity, and then also to get the image that you need in that specific game is probably pretty tough. And I mean, it could be like, or it could be like an insert set. I mean, I don't know. It's kind of a cool idea that I think would be nice. But again, when it comes down to the money aspect of it, there has to be money involved, especially with how sports cards have gone over the past few years. But either way, I mean, if you have a Joel Embiid card from this year's 2023 Hoops product, you have a card with Ken Golden on it. So that's pretty cool. I'm sure you probably, like within the hobby, that card will probably sell pretty well for a while, because anytime there are celebrities in there, it gives a card, like a random card. And this is sort of maybe the other thing that I think with, I'll kind of wrap things up here. This is sort of maybe the other thing I think with base cards. Like they need to figure out a way to spice up the base card concept, or maybe not. I don't know. I mean, it really is like, I think that they could spice it up a little bit, but at the same time, I understand, maybe they don't have to. Maybe it's kind of, it's fine how it is. But like you got a Ken Golden card with Embiid, so I would imagine over the next few years, that's probably going to be a card that will sell throughout the hobby. Like there are specific cards like that. Like I said, that the Ja Morant card, the Kyle Lowry card, that because they have somebody in the background, they do sell. And it's not just because it's like a random base card, especially because I think the Ja Morant card is from Chronicles. You don't just have some random base card. You actually have some significance for that card, which I think does help the sale of it in volume and how many times it sells over the next few years as we kind of keep moving and evolving throughout sports cards. Some big news came out around, I guess, the college championship games. I think they announced it on ESPN before the Michigan game. They announced, well, not announced it, but they announced like the two leagues, like the two conferences, and then the teams that were going to be in the conferences for the USFL XFL merger, basically. And one is just the XFL conference, and then one's the USFL conference. And I think that the growing of competition in that sport is going to be very interesting. I think within American sports, it almost feels like the American sports market is so much different, I think, than like the world sports market, because the world is very focused on soccer. And then within the United States, we really have so many different sports. I mean, baseball, basketball, football, hockey, where, like, yeah, baseball is big in Japan, it's big in Australia, but they don't have, like, they also have, Australia has, like, rugby, but they don't have, like, football and basketball and hockey also. So I wonder where these types of mergers are going to go, and especially because, you could also consider college football as, like, as a sport in its own. I think college basketball as well. Like, I think we have second-tier sports within the United States already built in with college that I wonder if the combination of this league is going to help the NFL. And what this comes down to essentially is just for cards, and I'll get into cards here, is like, is there going to be prospecting? Like, are you going to be able to prospect people from these other leagues? And like, if a player plays in the XFL, USFL league, like, are they going to have cards? And then if they make it to the NFL, I mean, they would have to be probably a quarterback for sure. Because a player like Steve Young, he played in the USFL, the original USFL, before he played in the NFL. So, like, his rookie card is a Topps USFL card. Herschel Walker, I believe, was also another player that played in the USFL before the NFL, I think it was. It was either him or, I know, Marcus Dupree, who, he didn't really pan out in the NFL. He had a bunch of injuries, and there was actually a really interesting 30 for 30 on him that I should definitely suggest taking a look at. But the prospecting of cards, like, I did a video probably back in, like, April, because one of the XFL teams there's a team in St. Louis that's, like, they and they had like crazy attendance. Like they were absolutely dominating attendance. And I don't know if necessarily that the NFL would bring one of these other teams into the league, and like would that affect rookie cards from players who played in that league first? Because I would definitely say for the most part, probably a majority of the league are players that couldn't make it in the NFL, and they maybe they already have some NFL rookie cards. But it's similar with soccer, where people may look at it and say, well, with soccer, there was no real way to go professional within the United States unless you were going overseas. Like even a player like Pulisic, for example, like he's not that old, but like he is part of a generation that had to go overseas to really become pro. And I know I'm correlating the two sports here, but like, will this give, like, is football a sport that will potentially more players will have opportunities to play professionally? And then even through college, because now you can make money in college. So it's like these college sports are also becoming more lucrative for players to go play professionally. And then with the MLS, for example, too, just to kind of bring this all together, like the MLS, and then there's a secondary league called the USL, the United States USSL? No, it's just the USL. And that's basically like the second tier division. It's not like the Premier League where a team from the USL gets promoted and then a team from the MLS gets demoted. But if you really are looking to dive in, I'm sure there are players in that tier that you could look at once they get into the MLS. If they play in the USL, there's a chance that you could know about a player and their cards before other people know. And really I think that's sort of the opportunity within sports cards that I think is sort of still there, that I think from a prospecting perspective, I would say it's obviously always good to know of players that other people don't know about if you're trying to prospect. But I really think the opportunity is like finding players that basically no one has heard of. And I mean, this is where prospecting I really like, because in the MLB, you got the top 100 prospects. But if you're a top 100 prospect, realistically, there are other people who are searching that list every day for sports cards. It's really when you get into, like, outside the top 100, that's where I would imagine there is more upside and less downside if you're trying to prospect within soccer. And because if they're players that people don't know, and this is the thing with soccer too, with like overseas teams. You could follow a team, and with soccer, I think especially, I don't think there's many people really prospecting the way that I think people could within soccer, if I'm going to be honest, at least anymore. I mean, maybe over the past couple of years, there was, like, we saw a lot of hot rookies come through kind of the pipeline and get their shine and get their moments within sports cards. But I really think people have teetered off of that a little bit and kind of brought it back into maybe what their core collecting or core buying was, and kind of got away from trying to find some of these, like, not even no names, like some young players who are playing in smaller leagues. And the USL and I think the MLS are just examples of how sports within the United States have changed over the past 25 years. Because the MLS is only 25 years old. So again, like, I use Pulisic for the example. The only way for him really to make a career out of playing soccer was to go overseas, because if you went to the MLS, like, the only players that played in the MLS, you weren't going anywhere really, like 10 to 15 years ago. Also, because the league was only 10 years old, so it's like there still wasn't the global eyes on the league. And I think, again, this is another sport that's not really like this, but the WNBA, I think, is like this as well. Why I think you're going to see better players in the MLS, you're going to see better players in the WNBA, is because the leagues are starting to get more and more mature, where they are getting into that 25, 30-year-old range, where it's like in the MLB, and I mean, even football and basketball and hockey, like, those are leagues that have been around for decades and decades and decades. So, like, the maturity of those leagues, like, for players, for there to be a pipeline for a player to become a professional, I think is a lot better now. And for their cards, I think what ends up happening is that you will see players who are like I said, if you're prospecting, you should be looking at potentially not no-name talents, but like talents that are lower tiered in terms of like people don't know that much about them. Because again, if you're prospecting, you're pretty much just gambling. And in my opinion, the best way at least the way that I gamble, and just in general, is I like to place a lot of small bets. Like, I don't like betting big on one specific game. Like, I'll bet a lot on a bunch of different games. And that's what I think you can really do within soccer or within just prospecting. I think soccer is just one example. But I think like within football, maybe now potentially with this merger of this league, potentially we're going to see people actually jump from, this XFL, USFL league into the NFL. I think we're still in a moment within football cards where it's like really quarterbacks are dominant, and it's almost not even close anymore. Like, I think running backs and wide receivers were creeping up there, but I really think it's obviously quarterbacks. So it's like maybe quarterbacks are going to be what will start it, but there could be a potential that a wide receiver or running back could buck that trend in the next few years. I mean, really, it's like, I think the money's going to go where I think people want to spend it. So people want to spend it on quarterbacks. I think potentially it could shift, and I think that this league could help prospecting within football a little bit more, and maybe get some more talent from one of these leagues into the NFL in the next few years if this merger goes really well. I did a whole podcast last week about this topic, and immediately after, I thought to myself, I think I need to look at these cards a little bit closer, because as I was doing the podcast, the Disney 100 cards, the Disney Topps Chrome 100 cards, because as I was looking at one of the cards, I was like, that's the signature on that it looks a little like pixelated. I was like, that's weird. Like, that's not really something that, if somebody is signing these cards, there wouldn't be pixelation in the autographs. And then I did a little bit more research, and come to find out, these are just printed on autographs. Like, they're not, like, if you go to eBay and you look at, I don't know, you type in Disney 100 Topps Chrome autograph or auto or whatever, all the autos look exactly the same on every single card. Each of the characters' autographs, at least. Like, the Buzz Lightyear and the Woody, like, the Woody has like a whole design to it with a lasso, and I think there's like a Joy, I think, is one of the characters from Inside Out, and like that one has a whole, like, it's all like drawn in and the letters are all really thick, but you look at all the autographs, they're exactly the same. It's because they're not real autographs. But this gets me to the point of the show, or I guess the point that I made before. I was like, it's weird that they would do autographs, but they would be like the Santa autographs where they're not real autographs. Like, they just had some intern sign them or something. But obviously then I realized that they're not real autographs. So the weird thing is that on Twitter, like, I'm seeing people posting about these cards and like some of the polls, and like specifically the 1 of 1, it was like Mickey, Goofy, Donald Duck. There's another person on there for I forget who it was, but there's four autos on this 1 of 1, and it got pulled, and like people are talking in the comments about like how they don't think it's going to sell for a certain amount, and how people maybe think it is going to sell for maybe the most expensive Disney card of all time. But like nobody in those comments, like of the posts that I saw, is talking about how these aren't real autographs. It just feels like this is like something where, I don't know. It's weird. It's weird, and I don't know how to explain it exactly. Like, I don't know why I actually don't even know why the autographs being pulled are like even that big of a deal, if I'm going to be completely honest, because they're not real autographs. So it's like, it's weird to see people talking about these cards selling for like I think there was a Walt Disney card that sold for, I believe it was like $30,000 either last year or the year before, and people are saying that this 1 of 1 may break that card, and it's like, why? Like, no, I don't think it's even going to come close. Like, I really hope that whoever sells it, like if it's Golden or if it's PWCC or whoever ends up selling this card, like, I think somebody is going to get tricked by these cards, realistically. Like, and that's the thing I almost wish. It's like, why even? It's like when Topps did the, they did like the throwback. I forget the exact name of the insert, but it was like an insert that had an autograph that was a card that was just like it was like a photoed image of the card, and people were like. There were a bunch that sold on eBay, which, you know, obviously with eBay, I think they're pretty good at buyer protection. So, like, if anybody was listing these cards as authentic autographs or autographs, either probably the listing got taken down or the person definitely got their money back. Like, there's no way that you would be able to sell this card. Like, throughout the years, I think it was called, like, there was, like, an Ohtani one, there was, like, a Mike Trout one, and I think this was in last year's... I'm pretty sure that was in last year's Topps flagship. But it's like, what? And these cards are like hits, basically. They're hits. And I understand, fine, putting in different cards that are like hits in the product. But like, why are the hits, why do they have to be fake autographs? Like, that's the thing I don't understand. And this was part of the point that I was making on the show that ended up getting erased, was like, what's the point of putting... fake which it almost, I'm doubling down on this, because the point was, what's the point of putting fake autographs? Because what I originally thought was that these autographs were, that Topps was trying to sell these autographs as like the characters, because when I looked, or like the voice actors of the characters, but then when I looked at the checklist, I realized that's not the case. But then I'm almost doubling down again. It's like, why are these autographs part of a product that they're just not real autographs? I don't really know. And this is where, like I said, I just didn't see, like, what. I understand that they are autographs on the cards, but they're printed on. So, like, if you're looking up these cards and you only look up one or two of them, there's a chance that you may not know. And I just feel like it's Topps adding a little bit of confusion to a set that I think is really cool, like a really great set. And I think, but it's almost just like adding an extra layer of like potential, not fraud necessarily, but it's like it's adding a potential for someone to get scammed on this card. Because it's like, if somebody, I would imagine if you're looking at the card at a show, you would be able to see that it's not a real autograph. Like, you would be able to look at it and say, oh, that doesn't look like pen markings. That just looks like a printed on fake autograph. But if you are buying the card on like some sort of social media, like maybe there's a chance that like the buyer or seller could just scam you, which that scamming scenario could happen at any point. But it seems like they just added. And I get that it's to sell the product. I don't necessarily know the odds of the product, like how many of these autos come out of packs and stuff along those lines. Like, I don't know if it's like 1 or 2 per box or something. But it just seems like they're adding something that's confusing for no reason. And I don't know. I don't really like that they did it this way, if I'm going to be completely honest. Like, I didn't like it when I thought that it was just like a random person signing the card. Like, I think it was a Finding Nemo card, so it was Nemo and the 2 main characters. And now I even don't like it. Now I don't like it even more, knowing that they're actually just printed on autographs and that they're not even real autographs. Like, it's just adding a level of confusion to a product that I think is very cool, that in the grand scheme of things, I think that they could have sold this product at the same price without this type of card in it. Because also, it's like, who's to say, like should they have sold it for less if they're trying to sell these autos? And I don't know. It was a secret drop, so there wasn't really much marketing behind it. But like, if anybody thought that these autos were real and they bought if they bought the box at a price that they thought they were getting a real autograph from one of these characters, that I feel like that's a significant deal. But I mean, and Topps probably will never come out and say anything about it realistically, but like, I wish that they could have just done some sort of different insert set with this product, rather than including fake autographs as, you know, the potential product hits for for this secret drop that they did a couple weeks ago. That also, like I said, it was only in the UK. I don't know 100% why they did that. I speculated on other episodes, but that was just, that was something that I saw today that I thought was interesting with this product. We're still kind of getting past the New Year's and stuff, kind of news cycle coming in and stuff like that. So we're still waiting on more stuff to drop. This was the secret drop that came out a couple weeks ago, I think, with Topps. But it was, I don't know, one of the issues that I had with this product overall, in my opinion. Yesterday was the release, or at least from what I saw on Cardboard Connections, of this year's Prism Football. I didn't really see, the hype up to it, I guess, wasn't as crazy as I was expecting. I think I saw that First Off the Line came out last week, and it's really, there have been other football products, but it's really the first big football product that has come out without the big quarterbacks in it, because CJ Stroud, Bryce Young, and Will Levis are all exclusives to, they all have exclusives with a different company. So they're not going to have any autographs in Prism Football. And I think there's going to have to be something that's studied over the past, or from the past maybe 5 years. And I don't know who's going to do it. I don't know if it ever really will, but there's it almost feels like there has to be some sort of I wish there was a way to do this, like a video essay on the downfall of Prism as a brand for Panini, because it may just be that they decided that because of the popularity, they're just going to print so much of it that it feels like we've almost been duped into thinking this is one of the more important releases. And I think this year specifically, too, we're really going to see, because of the lack of autographs that are going to be in this product, we're really going to see, I think, a big shift. And also, it's one of Panini's last years, too. So, that I think also has something to do with it, that has for football. But it really, there's going to be, there isn't really, sports cards don't really have documentaries like this. Esports, for example, I love esports documentaries because there's so much, and I think sports documentaries as well. I wish that there was, documentaries are so expensive to make, and there's so much research that has to be done. I think it's going to be interesting in a few years. Oh, well, I guess also because Prism won't be around, so maybe that will be the time where it's someone will look at it, and maybe a hobby company that has, some sort of media thing that has VC money coming in or something, they'll be able to do, maybe they'll be able to do some sort of documentary on this, because like I said, it just feels like Panini really duped us. Because when Prism first came out in 2013, nobody really liked it. It wasn't really very popular. I listened to the Mojo Breaks podcast, and I remember, their story about Prism is always the 2013 Giannis cards. They were giving those Prism packs out for free to people that were doing breaks because they couldn't sell. And then, like I said, so I wonder if there are specific points where Prism wasn't, and this is basketball, not football, but at the same time, I wonder if there are different points throughout history where Prism, like I said, when it first came out, people didn't really like it. Maybe 2017, 2018, obviously, but so from 2013 to 2018, I wonder what exactly happened in that time period of why it became so popular. And I remember, because I came into sports cards around 2018, so I don't have necessarily the knowledge of the the start of Prism to 2018, so I don't really necessarily know, and I think it's hard. I would be interested if anybody on Twitter or Instagram or anyone can reach out and let us know if they know sort of what was happening. It could have just been that it was a popular product because of the Chrome aspect of it. It was really something that was new and fresh within the hobby, and people didn't like it at first, but then as it sort of grew, people sort of started to like it a little bit more. But then they just shot the print runs to the ceiling. They shot the print runs to the moon. Absolutely, crazy high. Really just without any, it feels without any intent on making the product any better. Just they looked at it and said, well, we know that we can, which sports cards is a business. I say this on every podcast. I understand that money is going to be the number one priority for a lot of these companies. But I just think you look at what happened in 2017, 2018, and then 2019, 2020, and then throughout these past couple years, it just feels like Prism just became another product, really. Like, it became a product that just, it was so popular and so ripping hot that they were just like, we're going to turn the printers on, and we're not going to turn it off. And it's another print run it's another print run question that I have. Like, did they increase the print run of products across the board? Did they pick and choose? Like, did they say, okay, well, Optic is going to be increased 10%, Prism's going to be increased 20%? Like, it's just like you look at these print runs of, and I use print run numbers basically from like PSA because, you know, I think the PSA numbers now maybe aren't as high, I think, as they were like in 2018, 2019, 2020 because of how many people were sending in cards. Obviously, PSA shuts down, so I think that affected how many cards people were sending in. But without the autographs in this product, I really haven't seen and that might be actually the reason why I haven't seen, I feel like, the excitement. Like, it felt like Prism Day within the hobby was like such an important day a couple years ago. And now it's like, I didn't even know that it was out until I saw like people talking about, I think like, there was some 1-of-1 was pulled. I think it was like that Rams wide receiver. Like the 1-of-1 was pulled, and I was like, oh, I didn't even know the product was out. And it could be like, again, this is where what has happened with Panini, that they probably don't have as many people working there because they aren't going to have the license. So they don't have like the maybe the social media team, maybe the marketing team isn't as large, which obviously, I mean, that's understandable. I wouldn't, you know, but, and again, it's also maybe it's like, is it a chicken or the egg situation? Is Prism popular because they do a lot of marketing around it, or is it, no, is it popular because they used to do a lot of marketing around it, or do they not need to do the marketing, and that's one reason why it's popular? I don't think that's the correct comparison. I think it's more of, is it popular so they don't, no, here it is. Is it popular so they don't have to do the marketing, or is it popular because they did the marketing? I think that's the comparison that I was trying to make. And I think it was actually, they did the marketing and it was popular, so it was a combination of both, if I'm going to be completely honest. What I think now is that it's still fairly popular, and I still think people view it as like an important product, but I just think that the way that Panini has really shifted and increased the print run of Prism is going to be looked at in some capacity. I don't know, like I said, I don't know how or where in the future, but it's just, it feels like they took, not took us for granted, but it just feels like they took what was such an awesome product, and they were just like, well, you know, people like this, so we're just going to print as much of it as we can, and we don't really care if we're going to make the product any better. Like, because I don't think, because like one of the big changes you could look at and say was, well, they added a lot of parallels, which I think is okay, but it's like they didn't add the parallels so that way they could make the product better. They made the parallels so that way they could make more of the product, and so that way, you know, and so that way breakers could open up the product and always have, you know, some sort of cool card to pull, which I'm not even, that part of it I'm not even really mad about at all. Like, I think that breakers are an important part of this hobby, and when you have a good breaker that breaks a lot of product, you're getting the product into people's hands, and so I'm not even going to sit here and be like, well, this is the breaker's fault, because it's not at all. It's no one's fault necessarily, but it's the customers who were clamoring for this product, and then Panini, who was like, well, these customers want the product, so we're going to make as much of it, and we're going to try and get it into as many people's hands as we can, even if it, you know, hurts the quality of the product and makes it not as interesting of a release. So we are going to be doing I guess you could call it a bit of an old school episode here. We've got two different topics, kind of similar, that we're going to be talking about on today's episode. You may remember, like back in the day, which it seems like is forever ago, but it was only April at this point. And we also just this is a little bit off topic here, but we actually just reached 250 episodes. I didn't even realize that. I was doing a little bit of research on, not research, but we have our podcast player on our website, and that has to be updated every day. And the platform that we use for that widget documents how many episodes there are, and we hit 250 yesterday. So we hit 250 2 days ago. So yesterday was 251. The third, which was Wednesday, I guess, that was 250. So 250 episodes in the course of, I mean, the podcast hasn't even been, like, we launched the podcast in April, so 250 episodes. I mean, that, I have done sports podcasts. I've done a sports card podcast, the Heroes for Sale podcast back in 2020. We did a similar amount of episodes. I think I tried to do one every single day on those, and I mean, this has been close to almost every single day. I mean, we obviously do Monday through Friday, and then we do the Saturday recap. So then Sundays we don't do an episode, which I don't know, maybe in the future we will. I don't really know, but like I said, I just wanted to give a shout out to everybody who's listening on. Thank you, everybody. It's been a good ride so far. We've got a lot of stuff planned. Danny and I have planned. We meet every single week to go over like what our plans are for the website and what our plans are for the podcast. So the fact that we hit 250 this week is, it's look. I don't want to toot my own horn, but it's cool. Like, it's, because there's that statistic that's like most podcasts don't make it past like the third episode or fourth episode or something. And so 250, look, it's cool. I don't know. Maybe you can hear me. You can hear me grinning a little bit behind the microphone on this episode. But like I said, I just wanted to give a quick shout out to everybody who's listening, everyone who's followed along the way, everybody who's coming back to listen. Thank you so much. I really obviously appreciate it. It's really great. So, on today's episode, we have two basically main topics, and they're both tops, and the first one I'll kind of get into, it is, so the 1-of-1 Messi Topps Chrome card was pulled, and again, the valuation of these cards I think is very interesting, and I think it's actually, I do wonder where the legal standpoint comes in on the valuation of some of these cards is, like, and I know that's obviously not illegal to say that something could sell for this amount of money, like whatever, but it's like, it just seems like, it seems a little bit wild, some of these prices. Like I said, like on the last episode, I saw some statistic that was like over $40,000 for the 1-of-1 Disney card. I've seen like the number $50,000 thrown around for this 1-of-1 Topps Chrome Messi card that was in the Topps Chrome MLS, that product that just came out, which, yeah, it's probably the best MLS card that's ever come out, but like, 50,000, I don't know, that seems a little high. I mean, granted, sure, it's a 1-of-1 Messi, it's his first MLS card, it's his first American Topps Chrome card. Like, he's had, obviously, Barcelona and then PSG and all the places that he's played. He's had big cards, and I still would say probably, like, his rookie, his Mega Cracks rookie is obviously going to be, a much more impactful card in the grand scheme of things. I do think that this card is very important. 50,000, I guess we'll see what that sells for. The other topic that we're going to talk about on today's podcast is going to be Topps came out with their card of the year, and I don't know if this is going to be anything. Like, I don't know if they're going to make something from this, but they came out with a poll on Twitter, and they said 2023 was filled with absolute bangers in capital letters. In your capital letters opinion, what was the card of the year? And they listed the Shohei Ohtani Babe Ruth dual auto, which I guess it's both of them. They put in the Volpe debut patch, which I don't know. Volpe had an okay season. I think that maybe he definitely was the poster boy for that card in general. But I mean, maybe that's just a genre of cards, I suppose. The Brady Bowman draft card, I think, obviously had so much promotion from Topps and from Fanatics that it really is pretty insane. And then the Shohei Ohtani World Baseball Classic card. Now, I would probably say that Shohei Ohtani World Baseball Classic card, because that I think is going to be like the last at bat of Shohei Ohtani striking out Mike Trout to win the World Baseball Classic is, I think that's going to be one of the most iconic sports images of all time. I think it's going to 10, 15, 20 years from now when Mike Trout and Shohei Ohtani inevitably make the Hall of Fame. Maybe they'll, I think it would be, now that they're playing in different divisions or different leagues, maybe there's a chance that they play each other in the World Series. I don't know if, the Angels will ever really make the World Series now, especially now that they don't have Ohtani. But I think that Shohei Ohtani Trout card is going to be like, I don't know. I think that the image is going to be one of the more iconic. Like when we look at iconic sports images, we look at like the. I'm just thinking like the Muhammad Ali where he's like doing the thing where he knocked out that guy and he's standing over him and he's like screaming. That one. You have like the Michael Jordan with the crossover in the finals that one year where he crossed over and he hits the shot, or the shrug Michael Jordan. I mean, Michael Jordan has tons of them as well. Another one is like the LeBron James, Dwayne Wade one where they're doing the dunk and Wade's like, what's up? That's another iconic image. This one is going to be on that level for sure. So if I had to pick, I would say from an organic perspective, that's definitely my favorite because the other ones were organic, but they were sort of, I don't know if manufactured is necessarily the right way I would describe them, but like the patch card, that's maybe a little bit, that's probably more towards the organic side. The Brady Bowman draft, that's probably more towards the manufactured side. And then the Shohei Ohtani Babe Ruth, I mean, that one's manufactured, obviously. And I'm saying like, it's coming from a moment that was important during that season. That one's obviously the most. So if I'm ranking these cards, like here's my rank. Here's what I'll do. I'll do number one has got to be that Shohei Ohtani card. I would say also. Then they said there was a. Oh, maybe they said. Did they say baseball? No, I don't know. But so they said they did say MLB, so maybe they're not including like the Victor Wembanyama card because I think that's also going to be a pretty iconic card. Same with the Caitlin Clark because I don't know if you saw what happened with Caitlin Clark like the other day. She hit like this crazy buzzer beater and had like 40 points in that game, and she's really revolutionizing that sport. And that's actually another topic that kind of came out that I'll talk about probably next week at some point. But here's where I would rank those four because they're, like I said, the Wembanyama, Bowman I think is a big one. I think the Bronny James, Topps Chrome basketball, the McDonald's All-American, I think that will probably be a big card. I think this 1-of-1 Messi actually is sort of an insane Topps card, but if they're just including baseball, maybe they will do other sports. But if we're just including baseball, I would go Shohei Ohtani World Baseball Classic. I would say the debut patch just in general, because if we're just in saying Volpe, then Volpe would be behind Brady. But if we're talking about the debut patch as a whole, the concept, that one's number two for me. Then the Brady Bowman, and then the Shohei Ohtani Babe Ruth. Because, like I said, I think I'm looking at it as more of like what happened more organically and what happened more manufactured. The Shohei Ohtani Babe Ruth dual auto could have happened at any time. I guess maybe the Brady could have potentially happened at any time as well. He did just retire, so maybe that is why it is. The debut patches, I think we're gonna keep seeing those, so that's gonna be a big deal. And then, like I said, that Shohei Ohtani Mike Trout World Baseball Classic card is just. It is a really great card. And then there was also, I think, I don't remember who posted it, but I think it was PSA potentially posted that card where Trout signed one, Ohtani signed one, and then Trout and Ohtani both signed one. And they numbered them, I think, I'm pretty sure they numbered them too. So they were like signed and inscripted and numbered or something. Like, it's just, like I said, that card I think is going to be iconic throughout the years, especially, you know me, you know that I love Topps Now cards. Like, that's my jam. Like, those cards, I love them. So that's where I would go for number one card this year, probably. If you have any thoughts on the cards too, like, I definitely would be interested. Like, hit us up on Instagram or Twitter, or send us a message of any Topps cards that you think were kind of iconic this year, because I bet you there's tons that they missed. Like, these are kind of more recent cards. Like, these are probably just from the second half of the year. So I'm sure there might be ones that happened in the first half of the year that we haven't thought about. But at least for now, that's what Topps put out their poll. I guess, actually, I'm going to vote right now that I have this up. And the results are, the Shohei Ohtani one actually was number one. I'll read these results, and there's still 14 hours left. So the Shohei Ohtani Babe Ruth dual auto number one, Shohei Ohtani World Baseball Classic number two, Brady auto number three, Volpe debut patch number four. So really not the order, that actually almost the complete opposite order of what I had them in. But either way, I mean, I think they're all really cool cards. So I guess we'll see when this poll ends what people think. I can't imagine that the results are going to change that much, but at the same time, there's still like more than half of a day to vote on which card you think was the most iconic for baseball this year.